limboing under an SUV, and just think of the applications there. So Holly Madison has a book coming out, and it's called Down the Rabbit Hole. Have you heard about this?
Yeah, no, I know who she is. She was in the
Playboy Mansion.
Playboy Mansion, but she was on the TV show.
Yeah.
Girls Next Door.
Girls Next Door. I'm like, my brain's...
Yeah. And is she the same one that has the website? Or is that Ashley Madison? I'm sorry, I'm confusing her. No, this is Holly Madison. Sorry, my bad. But the book that's coming out June 23rd, I think it says, is Down the Rabbit Hole, Curious Adventures and Cautionary Tales of a Former Playboy Bunny. So she's going to address the real dark side of what it was like to live there. And she talks about getting to a point where she was really contemplating suicide because she called it the twisted Hugh Hefner world there and all of that. She said it's nothing like the glamour that you see, even the show you didn't see, and all of that sort of thing. So I don't know. I mean, how do you feel about this, you guys?
Well, one, I personally, I can't imagine that you're all that blind after this many years of knowing what you're getting into to some extent. I mean, it's a brand. And, nothing has really changed there in, 50 years? Mm-hmm. Now, is that good or bad? But I can't imagine that really that it was that surprising.
Well, she was like 19 and
homeless
when she was originally taken into the mansion. And
now, was she the one that was the number one girl during Girls Next Door? Okay,
yes.
So she had a little bit more. But, but there, it probably was more, I mean... Yeah, if you're that much older than someone, whether it's male, however it goes, I can understand just not knowing, having any sense of self. And if you lose that sense of self, no matter how, it's going to be tough.
And it sounds like there was a lot of like mean girling and bullying, and I guess Hef liked the drama, liked them fighting. They kind of pressured her into like, she ended up getting plastic surgery and stuff. So I could see it. I'm just surprised why people think it is so glamorous. You're
basically in a harem.
Right. Mm-hmm. And in some ways it is like pornography, and not necessarily all of the negative stuff, but that there's a lot more going on that you don't see. So just like in porn, when they're about to shoot an anal scene, you don't see all the like cleaning and prepping and foreplay and lubing. They just go right into it, and you're like, oh, that's how it works. I imagine it's same thing. You watch the show and you're like, oh, that's how it works, right? And you don't see this girl in a bathtub wanting to
drown
kill herself.
Yeah.
And that can happen.
Or just any movie or any art in general, you see the finished product,
right?
But nobody sees what goes into making any of this, whether or not it was trying to make a kid cry for a scene, or whether or not someone has to bring up something and they're going through there. There's what you're seeing is not it's television. It's movies. It's it's fantasy, and it was awfully handy that that she was able to like anyone to to regain a sense of self.
Yeah.
Because I don't care whether or not she's it's part of the Playboy world, but if you're 19 years old and you don't know what you're doing, you're going to lose that sense of self, whether or not you're working at Walmart or whether or not any place or whether or any place else.
Yeah, and I mean, getting stuck in someone else's idea, for them, they're happy, but if for you it's a twisted hell, that's the blinking, screaming siren light going off that says you've got to do something. And Jessica Drake touched on not only what you just said, Megan, about the parts that you don't see about the foreplay and everything that happens there, but the idea that consent happens as well. And it doesn't sound like I haven't read Holly's book yet, but the idea that she kind of just fell into it and it was never a conscious choice for her per se. She's just sort of got swept up. And that's really kind of sad, don't you think?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's one of the things. Excuse me. Sometimes I think there ought to be certain, even higher age limits for certain things, because I think people really need to think about what they're doing. For example, I got a tattoo when I was 35. I really knew what I wanted when I was 35.
Okay.
But I don't think a lot of people know who they are, especially with an extended adolescence in this country. Mm-hmm. Really what they want or what's going on, in their teens or early 20s. These are starter adults. Legally adults, yeah. But they, folks don't know what they're doing yet.
Yeah.
And you can get the pressure from your parents, mm-hmm. To do this or do that, or to just feel overwhelmed by everything going around you that you don't get a choice.
Yeah.
And I think I'd heard your brain is not really fully formed until you're like 25.
Really?
Oh,
yeah, I think that sounds right too. I think I've read something, on that, which, okay, but think about this though. Now the norm for people having children in our country is much later age, far closer to 30 on average. Whereas like Colleen, when maybe you and I were born or people older than we were, I mean, it was their early 20s. I mean, they got married really, really young. Think about that. They're starting these families before their brains formed, and then all of a sudden they're 25. Oh, I have my brain now. Oh, look, and I have 3 kids. That's frightening.
It is. I personally think it's a great trend. I mean, people can obviously do whatever they want, have kids or not, whenever they want, but there really is something to be said, I think, about people being fully functional adults while trying to raise other soon-to-be fully functional adults.
And I think that's why more and more people are being more honest too. Speaking of rabbit hole, going down the thing about deciding to be child-free. Mm-hmm. That is perfectly justifiable, concept. And, it's still just, it amazes people that people would think that way. But as you get older and things are going on and you really, you're like, okay, this is not something that I have to do. Yeah. There are other things that are, there are lots of other ways for me to be a viable human being versus the fact that I've squeezed something out of my uterus or that I've managed to, get the sperm to land right. I mean, the fact that there are more people making the conscious decision to be parents for the right reasons.
Well, and I love that because I made the choice not to have children. Because I just looked at, my mom was a single mom for the very large chunk of most of my childhood. Quite frankly, my parents divorced when I was 4, and I never really had a dad. He existed, of course, but he was not really in my life. And I saw how hard it was for her, and I thought, that just doesn't look fun. And I know that's a terrible thing to say,
but no, it's not terrible. It just is.
Yeah, and I don't. And I thought, in order to do this, to make it a great experience for both the kid and to have it the way I want it, I don't know if I want to put that kind of effort in it. So I'm not going to be responsible for another human's happiness or unhappiness. And that's how I made my choice.
And I think that it all goes down. I mean, Jessica, what's in my throat today? The idea of consent, that the fact that people make fully informed decisions about what they're doing.
Yep.
And it goes into every little aspect of life.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a fully informed decision about what you're eating? Do you have a fully formed decision about what's going on in your neighborhood? Do you have a fully informed decision, about whether or not you want to have kids, or you just, sliding along thinking, well, is this what I'm supposed to do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think, you just more information, the better.
Yeah.
Which is one of the reasons we have seminars.
Well, and I just figured out while we were sitting here having this discussion, guys, I just figured out how we're going to do this with Cheney and with Ryan, with ID Lube Company, and Cheney's with the Rabbit Company. I am going to, we'll go ahead and shut our episode down. I'm going to preview what's in those 2 interviews, and we're going to release a second little mini episode with those 2 back-to-back interviews because they're really good. And Cheney has some pretty dang funny stories about traveling with samples, if you can even imagine. Actually, they all do. I had to ask all of them that question because they were brilliant. And we'll play those 2. Ryan's very educational, and so is Cheney, but she's also hysterical. So is that okay? Are you guys cool with that?
Right. Yeah, a couple of things.
Yeah.
One, I mean, like I said, the ID, we carry a lot of the items in the store, but everything's available at ECN. The same with Rabbit Company. We carry many items at the store, but you just can't carry everything. So everything's available also on our partner website.
Okay.
FantasyGiftsMN.com.
Yeah. If you go to, fantasygifts.com, because most people do that, and you click on the Minnesota one, you can see that our dropship website is on the top. There's another place for it. Or, like I said, it's just fantasygiftsmn.com.
Okay. Awesome, you guys. Well, we'll get these interviews. So definitely look for the Gr8 Nrthrn Sexcast episode 27a is what it's going to be called, and it'll be posted in just a few minutes after this one pops up online. So welcome back, Colleen, Megan. Awesome to hang out with you on Sunday, and great job today. We'll talk to you guys next week.
Great.
Bye.